Hola amigos, soy Marcelino Ortiz and this is Latin Nation's Golazo. Today we have a very special show today, el especial de fin de año. We're excited to get going, but above everything, we're grateful for you, the viewer. We have 17 shows in this first season of Latin Nation's Golazo today. Several champions were crowned, and we have you to thank for this great first season. And like all of our favorite teams, we go into the off season ready to get better. We're gonna have new signing, new formations, new set pieces, so we can bring you the very best information and updates from the game that we all love. But we couldn't do this alone. I wanna thank everyone in our crew, our graphics department, Robbie, Alex, Lalo, Oscar, everyone that is involved in the show, Aura, our general producer, because without them, this show wouldn't be possible. But it's time to get this show started. Today we have a great show. We're gonna talk about the calendar in 2025. We're gonna talk about the predictions that we have of how the game is gonna unfold, and also a recap of our highlights in 2024. And for that, I bring in my friends Chiva and Nik. Very happy to have you guys here for this especial de fin de año. So guys, very important. What was your highlight, your very best moment in 2024, Chiva?
Definitely the U.S. Open Cup.
Okay.
For LAFC, I think it's the most old cup in the U.S. I think that was I was very happy to see that coming our way.
Yeah, an important tournament to win if you are a team that expects to be a dynasty in the MLS. You have to collect all of the different trophies. Nik, what about you? Any European highlights for 2024?
Oh boy, a lot of highlights, but can I answer that question too? I want to say the moment that excited me the most was watching the U20 Women's World Cup and watching North Korea come out on top. That surprised me. It was a roller coaster, and it was a real feel-good moment for these ladies that really wanted to win that and take home that trophy. That was just like a real heartwarming moment for me.
What an amazing story that was to see this group of players. They were obliterating everyone. They scores 8-2, 7-0. I mean, they were running up the scores. A great moment. I remember Nik covering that closely. For me, I feel there's a lot of great moments, but also I will say the U.S. Cup, the winning, because that was the only winning that I did. No Pumas, no LAFC.
It's a tough year for you.
No
It was a tough
Mexico.
year. No. We'll talk about that later in the show. The state of the national teams, the U.S. and Mexico, a special edition, final de año. So, what's happening in Europe in 2025, Nik? No. Did you know?
We're looking ahead. We're looking ahead.
Pumas, you will get me that championship, or LAFC, we'll see. But let's go to Europe. What do you expect to be one of the main storylines in 2025?
Oh boy, there's going to be a lot of them. You know what? Let's start with New Year's Day. If you're waking up on your couch from a deathly hangover, don't have to go anywhere because we got a game for you. We got the English Premier League, Arsenal taking on Brentford. It should be a walk in the park for Arsenal. You never know. You know, they're sitting closer to the top of the league now. Brentwood, not the case. Brentford, rather. So look, if you're sitting at home, hungover, you can watch that game, take it easy. Before we get into Champions League, I want to get your guys' thoughts on the FIFA Club World Cup. That's going to take place later on in the year, about halfway through the year in the summer. And there's a lot that's going on. Is there anything in particular that you guys are looking forward to with the FIFA Club World Cup?
I'm very excited about the tournament. I think it's like a dress rehearsal for what the World Cup is going to be in the United States. Most of the games are going to happen on the East Coast. There's some games happening on the West Coast as well, but I think that it's a great exposure to the U.S. market, to probably the best club teams in the world. There's no doubt that they will be able to see the very best that is available.
I'm just happy to see the fact that they're finally going back to a real FIFA Club World Cup tournament, because they used to call the the cup that Madrid just won. Intercontinental. They used to call that the FIFA World Cup, which was not, because not all the teams were there. The last time that happened, Necaxa won third place, beating Real Madrid in penalty kicks. And I'm looking forward to see all the best teams in the world play here in the U.S.
And for context, this World Cup, the FIFA Club World Cup, is going to have the same format as the World Cup. For the first time, there's going to be a group stage, 4 teams per group. They're going to have the elimination. The top 2 move on to the next phase, knockout. Classic World Cup format, very exciting, and that's why the U.S. it's important for them to start doing this dress rehearsal for what is to be one of the most exciting sporting events in the history of the United States, the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to talk about the U.S. men's team later on in the show, but I do want to mention this could potentially pose an issue for some key players for the U.S. team. I mean, look, it's a gift that we have these amazing players that are playing abroad, particularly in Europe, but those teams, they don't have any obligation to release those players during this time, and so that might be an issue for us for the 2026 World Cup when our new coach is trying to get things in order, see how the players are in form and all of that. But moving on, I said that we were going to talk about Champions League stuff.
Yes.
So we got to get into that as well. So if we can check out some of the Champions League matches that we have coming up, I'm going to skip around here just to some of the bigger days so we have an idea here. Match day 7, that's going to take place later on in January 21st. Good game, Atletico Madrid versus Leverkusen. That's going to be quite the matchup.
Yes, Atletico de Madrid showing that they are still one of the leading forces, not only in Spanish football, but in Europe at large. Cholo Simeone, we've said it in this show before, one of the main reasons why this team is a competition to the biggest team in Europe.
Let's not forget about Bayer Leverkusen. They want to be on top as well. So I think they're going to have a really good game, and they're going to play in Germany, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. And Xavi, the coach of Leverkusen, also a product of Spanish football, has come to do an amazing job at Leverkusen. They are playing a beautiful brand of soccer, and we're very excited about many games. Again, in January, we have 2 match days for Champions League. We have match day 7 and match day 8. Match day 8 is going to be crazy. Every single game is going to happen at the same time. January 29th, we have an amazing array of games. Chiba, which is your favorite?
Look, before saying who's my favorite, man, the fact that we can have the production, have 20, TVs so we can watch all the games, have the
live reaction.
That would be amazing. Whatever game Real Madrid is playing, that's going to be my...
Very good. We have PSV versus Liverpool, Girona contra Arsenal, Inter de Milan contra Monaco. We have a lot of good games. Nick, anything that stands
Real
out?
Madrid. Any of these Spanish games are going to be amazing. Anything watching a Spanish club, but I'm going to have my close eye on Liverpool because Liverpool has been absolutely outstanding as of late, and I love to watch them play in the EPL, let alone these other teams. You know, we get these amazing squads coming out of Belgium, from the Dutch squads that we don't hear about every day, and to watch them go up against these big Spanish giants, for example, is always it's always a pleasure, and it's always fun to see those kinds of smaller teams step up against the giants.
Chiba, what is happening in the Americas? Any tournaments, any games that you see that are going to be highlights in 2025?
I was going to say, is there a break?
No breaks.
I mean, because there's no break.
Just last game, we were talking about the importance of understanding that these players are under a lot of stress, sometimes playing 80 games a year, a lot of injuries. There's no break, Chiba.
No break. But we're going to go with the Champions League. It's going to start in February. I'm a little bit, I'm not that excited because for some reason, one bracket, you have all MLS teams. LAFC is going to play Colorado, and then if they advance, they play, I think, Columbus and then Miami. You know, before it was more like we were excited to see where we're going to travel to.
Yeah.
This Conca Champions League, it's a little bit different. But then we also have the Leagues Cup. You know, Leagues Cup is going to start with a new format, by the way. You know, last year Leagues Cup was terrible.
Yeah, taking a whole month out of the calendar.
It was just not good for the teams, and I think that they understood that. This Nations League Cup here at SoFi Stadium is going to be amazing. Panama versus U.S.
Yes, big games that we have.
Mexico versus Canada. We're going to see what Mexico has because Javier Aguirre and Rafa Marquez coming back to the national team, I think it's only going to help them. But let's see because Canada is a really, really good team.
It is. We're going to talk more about specifically the Nations League that is happening on March 20. USA versus Panama, like Chiba said. Canada versus Mexico. 2 of the most important games for CONCACAF. We'll have more on the next segment. But before we go, Nick, any player that you think is going to break through on 2025?
Ooh, any one player in specific?
Give me one. Give me one that you say, like, this player, I feel like is going to have a great year.
Yeah, Griezmann or Mbappe. Can I do 2?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Those are my 2. Those are my 2. I'm feeling hot about this.
What about you?
Oliver Giroud.
Oliver Giroud. You think that he's going to be a change in the way LAFC plays that? So finally
they better have a change, yeah.
You know, I like to say that Fito Celaya had more goals in his first season than Oliver Giroud. You know, just a little bit of trivia for you guys. But we'll be right back with more here in Latin Nations Golazo today. This El Especial de Fin de Año.
As the candles flicker, a new tradition shines. 8 nights of Hanukkah, 8 nights of winning insights.
But they may come out slow, so you might be able to get a better number. Wow, they're favored.
With SportsGrid, every night is another chance to win.
No pick sixes today, they cover. So let's crunch it up. Let's make it happen. Let's give you our favorite props.
Let your Hanukkah winnings brighten your celebrations. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest, and we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Bienvenidos de regreso. Estamos en Latin Nation's Golazo today. We're very excited in this end of year special. And for that, we are here with our trusty collaborators, Nik Z and Chiva Mayor. We continue with this analysis of what is that is coming up on 2025. We're very, very excited for the games. But two of the leagues that we cover the most here in Latin Nation's Golazo today are Liga MX and MLS. And there's a lot of things going on. Let's start with Liga MX because they're going to come back to play right away. Early January, we have games. Chiva, what can we expect on the next Apertura?
Man, who's going to stop Club America, man? Who? Somebody needs help.
Yeah, man, these guys. Three campeones. America just won their third short tournament championship in a row. The first time that ever happened in this format of play. They are also the first team to do 3 championships in the older long tournament format. America is the most powerful team in Mexico. Also, the one with the biggest pockets and the biggest support of TV. Sometimes you will say the referees. But, you know.
Do I sense a little jealousy here? Or?
Man, you know, as a Puma fan, I've been for this whole season, I've been very civil and very journalistic about it. But, you know,
Clearly.
this is the end of the year. So I'm going to throw it out of the window. I'm going to say that, you know, America, it's America, and it's the way it goes. But Chiva, do you see someone coming and challenging the supremacy that I wish that America has shown in this tournament?
Of course, you got Tigres and Monterrey. The two clubs are always investing a lot of money to be at top. I think Toluca is building a really good team, and why not Chivas? Chivas is also working with a new coach, with new players coming in. We're going to go for that cup, man.
Do you see San Luis maybe repeating the performance and getting in the top 4 again? Or do you think that was kind of a fluke?
No, it wasn't a fluke. I mean, San Luis, they have really good players, you know. Very underpaid, but really good players that were sensation back in the days in Europe and South America. I think if they keep the same squad, they're going to be strong again.
Amazing. You know, the tournament in Mexico is always up and down. You never know what's going to happen. It's always at the end of the season where it really happens. What are the keys for teams in the early part of the tournament for them to get a head start?
I mean, to win games. You know, the Liga MX, you can have a 6 lose streak, and then you win 5, and you're going to be in the playoffs. And so since the beginning, if you start winning games, it's going to be very easy for you to make it to a Liguilla.
And it's going to be an interesting year because Liga MX and MLS, that we'll get to in a minute, Nick, they're going to be competing again in the Nations, not in the Nations League, in the Leagues Cup. And the Leagues Cup have now a midweek game, which is going to be exciting to see the players do their domestic leagues on the weekends and international games on the midweek, just like they do in Europe. I feel like it's going to bring some legitimacy, and it's also going to challenge teams. But speaking of MLS, Nick, any highlights that we are expecting to see in 2025?
I think Galaxy getting another title is on the docket for sure. No, I'm joking. I mean, I think it can happen in terms of that. See, nodding your head over there. But I'm excited for the Galaxy, honestly. They got some great players and they got a lot of momentum behind them. But, you know, we also have teams like San Diego FC, the Wave coming out of nowhere, you know, with fresh, coming out of nowhere. Let's see if they can surf their way to some early victories, you know, and make a splash.
San Diego Football Club, the main player that they're going to be building around is Chucky Lozano, one of the best players in Mexico. He hasn't been so successful recently with the national team, but champion with Napoli. I think he's one of the most exciting players to watch that we currently have. I think he should be in the national team. He is now that he's going to be playing MLS, I feel like just like Carlos Vela did when he came, I think there's going to be a spark. The level of play is going to be high.
It's about time, by the way, San Diego gets a team, right?
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a city that's probably passionate about the game.
And one thing about MLS now is that the newcomers, the new teams are not coming, they're not joking, man. They're coming strong, they come in to win. And that's why I was going to say it's going to be difficult for LAFC, for Galaxy to win another championship because the league is only growing and growing. Miami, they're talking about bringing Neymar. I mean, big names coming the next season.
I mean, LAFC saw that spark from that momentum from being a new national team, right?
Yep.
So it's definitely a thing.
It's also important to see that, you know, there's this young core in San Diego that is very exciting. Also, you know, San Diego is a team that has been in many ways modeled after LAFC. You know, Tom Penn is the president of the team, but also they're called Azul y Chrome. You know, but I think like they saw what worked with LAFC in the early stages of the club, but also one player that I'm very excited to see, which they poached from LAFC, is Tomás Ángel. I think that this is a very young, exciting forward that has proven great success in the USL, and then he never got a real opportunity in the LAFC. Obviously, this is a stacked team with Boanga and Giroud. It was hard to crack, but I'm excited to see what they do. Nick, talk to me about the possibility that MLS aligns their calendar with the rest of the world. Finally, like a serious soccer.
Thank you.
Serious. Please talk to me about that.
I'm glad you said finally, because that's, again, the key word. Like what we said with San Diego, it's about time. It's about time that the MLS, which they're planning to do, is switch up their calendar so that it aligns with other, you know, leagues like the ones in Europe, for example. Why not? I mean, it only makes sense. I mean, we're only, as we've been talking about, getting more and more tournaments to play in, only more events coming out. So the more that things I think are aligned, the more it kind of puts MLS, I guess, on that same footing as other top tier clubs, leagues rather, around the world. And that's how they want to be seen, and that's how they should be taken.
As it stands right now, Chiva, you know, MLS has a calendar that is not aligned with the rest of the world. We start the season in March and we run the games all the way till November, sometimes early December, which, you know, is in conflict for the rest of the leagues that are actively playing from the end of the summer till the beginning of the summer and leaving their players free for the international games. Chiva, what have been the challenges that MLS has encountered throughout the years for having this calendar, you know, being off cycle with the rest of the world?
I mean, at the end of the day, they're trying to build a solid league, and we see it. No, even though we say all these things about the calendar not being, you know, as the rest of the world, MLS right now is on second place of attendance from every single league. So that's what I want to see from MLS is them playing home and away with every single team, because there's times that you get to play Miami in 2 years, New York in 2 years, and you know it's a challenge because of the weather. I think. Yeah. I think the weather is a huge challenge, but I mean we see games in snow in England. It shouldn't be a challenge anymore. I think they can change that, and I hope that we see a different calendar in the MLS, and it's not they don't struggle too much.
I think it's a very exciting time for the MLS, but we have more here in Latin Nations Golazo today. We're going to be back on our last segment to talk about the national teams, World Cup qualifiers, and what we can expect from Mexico and the U.S. in 2025. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
As the candles flicker, a new tradition shines. 8 nights of Hanukkah, 8 nights of winning insights.
Like, they may come out slow, so you might be able to get a better number. Wow, they're favored.
With SportsGrid, every night is another chance to win.
No pick sixes today, they cover. So let's crunch it up. Let's make it happen. Let's give you our favorite props.
Let your Hanukkah winnings brighten your celebrations. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet. Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans, bound by passion. Each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
And we are back here in Latin Nations Golazo today, the very last segment of this especial de fin de año, where we are saying goodbye to 2024, but saying hello to 2025. Now, Nik, Chiva, the most exciting part of the show, for me at least, is World Cup qualifiers, Leagues Cup semifinals, and the future of the U.S. and the Mexican team in 2025. We have very exciting things coming up. This year is critical for both national teams. We have the World Cup in 2026. Both of them are hosts, along with Canada. What can we expect in the preparation for both teams? And, you know, we'll talk about the dates of the qualifiers in South America, some of them, you know, around the world. But what can we expect, Nik, of U.S. in 2025?
I have very high hopes. I want to start off by saying that for a few reasons. Mauricio Pochettino coming in, okay, he's never coached a national team before, but he's a household name, I would say, in the coaching world, particularly in Europe, big clubs like Chelsea. And bringing that kind of energy to our team, I think is something that's very much welcomed. And I think he could do a lot of good things for the club, for the team, considering we have so many players who are playing abroad in Europe, particularly playing for these top-tier clubs, which we talked about could present a logistical challenge coming into this for preparations. The coach has got to know what players are in form, who need more form. But at the end of the day, they're going to work around it. We can't sit around and complain and make excuses before anything starts. You're a host. You got a brand new team, head of your team, brand new coach. You got a lot of great players on your squad. There's no reason why the U.S. can't do well. And I would say the same for Mexico, both as co-hosts of the tournament.
You know, the U.S. has right now the biggest number of players in European leagues in history. Yeah. I think that the momentum that the U.S. have, unlike Mexico, that we are at our lowest point, the least amount of players in the, you know, and I'd like to make this comparison because both the U.S. and Mexico represent growth in the soccer world. Mexico has always been a staple name, has always been a team that creates respect from the biggest teams in Europe when it comes to the World Cup, has been a pain for Brazil, has been a pain for France, for Italy. You know, like it's a team that has a lot of respect around. But the U.S., now we're seeing that on paper and on the field is growing at a pace that is hard to catch up. So, Chiva, what is the biggest challenge for the Mexican team to stay relevant, not only in CONCACAF, but in the world conversation?
The whole thing is a big challenge. But the fact that we have Javier Aguirre back and you know, aside to him, Rafa Marquez, I think he's going to make a huge difference in what the Tri was doing before and what they're doing now. I know everybody says Javier Aguirre for a third time again. Yeah, Javier Aguirre has come back with a lot of experience. He's a coach that has been proven with the national team that that he can do the job. And I mean, they have the World Cup in their hands. It's gonna be in our house too. So he better build a strong team. I think it's a little bit more difficult. But then again, back in the day, we have no players in Europe, and we had really, really good national teams. Now only Santi Jimenez is in the Champions League to begin with, and we don't have many players in Europe, but I do have a lot of talent in the local Liga MX, and I have faith that Javier Aguirre and Rafa Marquez are gonna put out together a team that is gonna surprise the world.
To what extent do you guys think that having a certain amount of players playing in those top leagues in Europe is really going to be a determining factor for the team's success in a major tournament like the World Cup? How important is that?
I believe that nowadays is super important. 20 years ago wouldn't be that important. Today, just the difference in systems, the fitness, the training, the
mentality,
principles around the mentality, everything off field, it's performed at a level that it's quite different in the European leagues than it is in Latin America. In Mexico, you might have a handful of teams with really top of the line methodology in all of their training, physio, medical strategy. But one of the other things that I also think that is very important is your constant contact with players that are hoping to perform at the highest level in the highest tournament. When you week in and week out are training with players that are fighting for a spot in some of the top national teams, when you are training to go to Champions League and dispute a spot on the starting 11 of Champions League, it's a very different type of pressure. Now, I believe that Mexico, like you said, Chiva, integrating Liga MX players like they did, bring the base of Cruz Azul, which unfortunately Cruz Azul León no la hizo después de being in first place for most of the tournament. I think that's important. I think it's the first time that I see a coach look to the Liga MX as a solution and not just kind of like a patch.
And not just that, just to add a little bit, the fact that the U.S. national team may come into problems when if it's not a fecha FIFA, Pochettino is not going to count with those players. On the other hand, with Javier Aguirre, he can have the Liga MX, let him, just like they did with La Puente, have the team for 3 months, forget about Liga MX, and go play around the world, and that could build a strong team.
We're excited about 2025. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We had a great season. First season of Latin Nations Golazo today comes to an end, but we want to thank you that watch every single minute of it with us. We'll see you the next year.
Feliz año.
Hey there, welcome to a special edition of Beat the Odds and happy holidays, everybody. This is such a great time of year. It's also the College Bowl football season. Santa, not the only one handing out the gifts, by the way. Beat the Odds starts right now.
From our Las Vegas studios, this is Beat the Odds, sponsored by Superbook at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, and powered by SportsGrid.
And welcome inside our Las Vegas studio. I'm Dave Hall.
And I'm Mariah Janos. Hopefully Santa dropped off some pretty cool stuff for you guys. Did you have a favorite Christmas present growing up?
Okay, before your time, but when I was like 8, I got the electric football game. Have you ever heard of that?
You've explained it to me before.
You put the players on, you plug it in, and then they just do this?
Yep.
I don't think I ever scored a touchdown on that game.
It clearly changed your life.
Maybe not in a good way. What about you?
You know, we got a cat one year, but that thing lasted like 4 years, unfortunately. So I think that's as good as it's gonna get. Merry Christmas.
Took a dark turn.
Yep.
Coming up on today's show, Teddy and Jack have hung their stockings with care. Unless you want a lump of coal in yours, you should stick around and see what they have to say.
Plus, our friend Rick Saratella is hopping on to talk about those college players whose only Christmas wish is to get drafted this spring. And our Merry Elves from SportsGrid are here too.
Let's welcome in Vegas here and beat the odds. Joe Lisi and Donnie Wright are going to be talking some college football bowl action, which includes Miami and Iowa State out there in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Back to you in Vegas. Let's get after it.
Yeah, let's get after it, boys.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to ask, did you guys have a favorite gift growing up?
That vibrating football game is a fickle mistress.
It is.
Yeah, I put my tongue on it one time, shocked the you-know-what out of me. So do not do that.
Explains a lot, Teddy?
That's why it's gone.
I don't remember what I did last week, let alone 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Fair